Hello, everybody. I hope you all are having a wonderful weekend, enjoying the beautiful weather. We're here to talk a little bit about what's been going on with the Gabby Petito case. First things first is Brian Laundrie's notebook confession to Gabby Petito's murder has finally been revealed. A portion of the notebook that was left behind as a confession was revealed on Friday. So the attorneys for the families met with the FBI in Tampa to take possession of personal items. That's when, back in January, the FBI announced that Brian's notebook was found near him at the Carlton Reserve, and it contained written statements where he claimed responsibilities for Gabby's death. Since then, we have all been wondering what was in this notebook, what Brian claimed happened, and what he had to say regarding everything. So finally on Friday, the Laundries family attorney put out 8 pages of this notebook. I do have the transcript for the notebook as well as the pages. I will go through it, but there are a few words in the notebook that are illegible or unclear due to the notebook having gotten wet from being underwater in the backpack. Also, some of the ink got transferred from being wet, and his handwriting is just a mess and crossing things out and things like that. I will let you know where it is unclear to read, though, as I go through. So let's at first take a look at the notebook pages and go through everything. So here we'll begin with page 1. Gabby, I wish I was right at your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I'd be going through every memory we made, getting even more excited for the future. But we lost our future. I can't live without you. I've lost every day we could have spent together, every holiday. I'll never get to play with illegible again. Never go hiking with TJ. I loved you more than anything. I can't bear to look at our photos to recall great times because it is why I cannot go on. When I close my eyes, I will think of laughing on the roof of the van, falling asleep to the side of the meteor shower at the Crystal Glazer. I will love you. I will always love you. If you're reading Gabby's journal, looking at photos from our life together, flipping through old cards, you wouldn't want to live a day without her. Knowing that every day you'll wake up without her, you wouldn't want to wake up. I'm sorry to everyone this will affect. Gabby was the love of my life, but I know adored by many. I'm so very sorry to her family because I love them. I'd considered her younger siblings my best friends. I'm so sorry to my family. This is a shock to them, as well a terrible grief. They loved so much, if not more than me. A new daughter to my mother, an aunt to my nephews. Please do not make this harder for them. This occurred as an unexpected tragedy. Rushing back to our car, trying to cross the streams of illegible before it got too dark to see, too cold. I hear a splash and a scream. I could barely see. I couldn't find her for a moment. Shouted her name. I found her breathing heavily, gasping. Illegible. She was freezing cold. Illegible. The blazing hot national park in Utah. The temperature had dropped to freezing and she was soaking wet. I carried her as far as I could from the stream towards the car, stumbling, exhausted in shock, when my illegible, and I knew I couldn't safely carry her. I started a fire and spooned her as close to the heat. She was so thin, had already been freezing too long. I couldn't at that time realize that I should have started a fire first, but I wanted her out of the cold, back to the car. From where I started the fire, I had no idea how far the car might be, only knew it was across the creek. When I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. Her feet, her wrist hurt, but she was freezing, shaking violently. While carrying her, she continually made sounds of pain. Laying next to her, she said little, lasping between violent shakes, gasping in pain, begging for an end to her pain. She would fall asleep, and I would shake her awake, fearing that she shouldn't close her eyes if she had a concussion. She would wake in pain, start her whole painful cycle again. Illegible. Furious that I was the one waking her. She wouldn't let me try to cross the creek. Thought like me that the fire would go out in her sleep, and she'd freeze. I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted. But I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock. But from the moment I decided taking away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her. I rushed home to spend any time I had left with my family. I wanted to drive north and let James or TJ kill me, but I wouldn't want them to spend time in jail over my mistake, even though I'm sure they would have liked to. I'm ending my life not because of fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. I lost our whole future together. Every moment we could have had shared. I'm sorry for everyone's loss. Please do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter. The most wonderful girl in the world. Gabby, I'm sorry. I have killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals may tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who littered. Now, that was everything that they had released from the notebook. Now, after the notebook contents were released by the Laundrie family's attorney, an attorney for Gabby Petito's parents released the following statement saying, I'm shocked that within 30 minutes of the time we left the FBI's office, the notebook was released. Neither myself nor Joe Petito or Nicole Schmidt released that from the notebook. Now, looking at the pages in the notebook, it seems like the first page is kind of like a love letter to Gabby, but then the second page and thereon after, it's kind of like a letter to everybody else. The last part of the notebook where he says, please pick up all my belongings, Gabby doesn't like people that litter, that's a little weird. Now, there are mentions of Gabby's father and brother in this notebook, but Gabby's mom is missing from it. And we know Gabby's dad as Jim, though he calls him a different name, which is it's a longer term for Jim. It's just weird the way he wrote it. Yeah, he calls the father James, which people named James could be called Jim. It's just weird how he put James instead of Jim. Now, for me, it's hard to believe that this is like a mercy killing, and to a lot of other people. It seems to be maybe an excuse for someone who is guilty of more. Like, I'm thinking when I read this, is this really what happened? Is this something that he made up? Is this something, again, that is a way of coping for him to distort what really happens? Another question I have is, during the time of year it was, he says it was freezing at night. Now, is it freezing in that area that they were around late August when she went missing? Now, I did look it up, and it says that it gets as low as 39 degrees Fahrenheit at Teton National Park in Wyoming in August. Now, that also brings up another question, too. The notebook makes mention of Utah and nothing about Wyoming, where she was found, which is weird. Which I looked up how cold it is in Moab, Utah, which is where we know they had that fight. And it was said that usually the minimum temperature noted during the nights in Moab in August is around 63.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So that just brings up more questions for me to like where this accident occurred. I'm assuming it was in Teton National Park because that's where she was found. There was a creek over there. It makes sense with the story that he told. So I can see that it might have been cold at night, seeing that it was probably like 39 degrees Fahrenheit, they're estimating around late August. But it all depends on the weather and what is actually happening. It might not even have gotten that cold. We'd have to go back and check records from around that time last year. And I also, when I was like trying to figure out, because he only makes mention of Utah, I did go back to my notes that I had saved, and I'm still thinking it was Teton National Park that he meant, and maybe he was talking about how, because that was where there was like an illegible area in the notebook that like maybe they were aware how cold it got, because in Utah it was hot and now it's cold where they are. So just things that I thought of while reading these notes. The notebook has been a focal point for the public's fascination with this case, as well as potential evidence in the civil lawsuit filed by Gabby's parents against Brian's family. So, as we know, the first hearing to the lawsuit filed by Gabby's family against Brian's family was held last week on Wednesday, June 22nd. Now, Judge Hunter W. Carroll heard arguments from attorneys for both families after Chris and Roberta Laundrie submitted a motion to dismiss the lawsuit that was filed in March by Gabby's parents, Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt. The judge said he would make a decision within 2 weeks as to whether or not the case will proceed to a jury trial next year. Now, Joe and Nicole filed the lawsuit on the grounds of intentional infliction of emotional distress, claiming that the Laundries were aware that Brian had murdered their daughter and chose not to act. The lawsuit also claims that Chris and Roberta sought to help their son flee the country and blocked Nicole on her phone and Facebook page. Now, Stephen Bartolano, the attorney representing the Laundries, since September, after Brian returned from the cross-country road trip without Gabby, has called the allegations in the lawsuit baseless. In the argument that was filed for the motion to dismiss, the Laundries argued their choice to remain silent during Gabby's disappearance, saying that it was what most people would and should do. Now, I don't really agree with that statement. I get your right to remain silent, but if this was their son, they would want her family to let them know everything that they knew. So for them to remain silent, like they should do, like people should do, no, that's not what most normal people would do. I just found that very crazy that they would think that. The pretrial hearing that was held in Sarasota County Circuit Court in Venice, Florida, marked the first time that the Gabby Petito case had reached a courtroom. Now, Judge Carroll has scheduled a jury trial for August of 2023. However, that doesn't mean it is guaranteed to happen. Matt Luca, the Florida attorney for the Laundries, has filed 2 motions to dismiss the lawsuit. The second motion was filed after the attorney for the Petito family resubmitted an alternate version of the suit to correct what Judge Carroll noted to be a procedural deficiency, it's called. So the next thing I also heard is that Lifetime will be filming a movie dramatizing the death of Gabby Petito. This is crazy that they're already going to make a movie about this. I get that this was like a big thing on social media, along with all news outlets. This was a huge story last August, September, and it went on, and it's still a big story. And it's just crazy that they already want to make a movie. Now, the television network announced on Thursday it is moving forward with the Gabby Petito story. Emmy-nominating actress Thora Birch has been hired to direct and co-star in the new movie depicting the tragic events surrounding Gabby's death. The network said in a statement that Gabby Petito's story will explore Gabby and her fiancé Brian Laundrie's complicated relationship and what may have gone wrong during their cross-country trip that resulted in Gabby's tragic murder. The movie will be filmed in Utah this summer and premiere later this year. So that will be interesting to see. So technically it's already summer. So are they already filming everything like right now? This case has brought a lot of us to wonder what happened to her. It was a very big mystery. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. I know as it was happening, we had a Discord, and everybody that was in the Discord at the time was reporting everything that they had seen or they had heard, that this is what was said. We had so many different conspiracies that we thought could have happened. I remember one of the crazy conspiracies was there was like a time that Brian Laundrie's family was outside in their backyard gardening, and someone thought that maybe he was like buried, not deceased, but like a tunnel underground in this gardening area, and that they were like providing him stuff there. And that was like the only time like the family had really gone outside. They only went in their backyard. They never went out in the front because there were so many protesters and people like that. And it was just crazy. It was crazy. And a drone was the one that captured them in their backyard. So that was a crazy conspiracy theory. I just hope that her parents get justice. I hope this case does not get dismissed. I feel like if it was their son, they would have wanted her family to have come forward with any information that they were aware of. They knew Brian came home. They went on a family vacation with him, and they knew possibly what had happened. They did not have, I can see maybe not wanting to speak about what they knew, but they could have provided some kind of information more than just not saying anything at all. I get it's like your right to not have to say anything, but they would have felt the same way her family felt. They would have been doing the same things her family did. They would have had, people would have been outside Gabby's family's house if this was their son. It's the same exact, it would have been the same way if it happened to them. So I feel like maybe they should have provided some kind of information. Now, one more thing that I didn't realize until this case started. Now, if you don't know, it's known that I live in the state of Connecticut, and I had seen Gabby Petito before I even knew about Gabby Petito. So Sandy Hook happened in my state. That was like one of the first couple school tragedies that we had before all of the other school tragedies that have happened now. And Gabby was in a video to memorialize the students and teachers that had passed away. And she was in the video for the Sandy Hook students. And this was her at a very young age in that video. And I remember seeing this video, and I didn't realize that I knew who she was when all of this was going down. I would just like to show just how beautiful she was, just a little bit more. She's an angel up there. She was loved by many. She was adored by a lot. And I hope that her family gets the justice that they deserve. And I have a heart, so I do hope that Brian's family gets some peace with everything that they've gone through as well with him passing. But I do want her family to get the justice that they deserve. Let me know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys think about this notebook, what was said in the notebook. Do you believe it? Do you think that maybe he wrote this to kind of cope with what really happened? What do you feel about everything that's in this notebook? Let me know what you feel about the court case going on between the two families. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Let me know below. Make sure to comment it down below. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel for more news, celebrity news, influencer news like this. And I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather wherever you are. Bye, everyone.